Good afternoon. This is John with HeartSpeak. HeartSpeak is an organization that we record and tell true stories. And today I'm in the studio with Clay. And Clay has a personal story. And Clay, please tell us about the story and the journey you have traveled.
Sure. John, first off, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to your audience. And guys, today I'm going to talk about the story of how I found out, treated, and recovered from a personal battle that I experienced with cancer at the young age of 22. A lot of the listeners may be surprised, but there are cancers that do affect younger people. And I'm going to tell the story of my experience, how I kind of found out that I had it, what I did, and how it made me into a better person here today. And that kind of parlays into giving back and servicing the people that we deal with through my work. So taking us back on a little journey through memory lane, everything kind of started happening right around 2018. For context, guys, at that time I was about 22 years old. I had been a wrestler my entire life, so I was a pretty active guy. And I was no stranger to imperfect skin, we could say. I went and saw the dermatologist. I hopped on the Accutane. I had bad skin for a long period of my time. And it was just something that I had dealt with leading up to the diagnosis. So I just wanted to provide some context there. So initially, what had started happening was I was waking up in the middle of the night with intense itching. And, if anybody's ever dealt with an itch, you probably ask yourself, is this real? Is this all in my head? Is this actually happening? But for me, it was very real. And it persisted for months. And I struggled with this in silence. Nobody wants to admit that they're itchy. I didn't want people to think that I was dirty or not taking showers or that I was a filthy gremlin or whatever it was. But at that point, even back, this was, I think it might have been even pre-COVID, my brother and I were actually sharing a room at this time. We had both finished college and we were back at the parents' house paying off the loans. And he mentioned something to me because I was up at night scratching my foot with a wrench. And again, I know it sounds ridiculous to hear, but the itching was unrelenting. And I was just trying to find a solution. I thought it was skin related. Maybe it was from my time on the wrestling mats. I couldn't find an answer for this itching. So as this progressed, I let my parents know. I even went to a doctor who thought that I had scabies, which was quite interesting. That's usually most commonly contracted with the homeless population. I was a little offended when that's what he told me that it was, but I did the whole bath up to the neck, had everything covered with the foam, but nothing really resolved this itching. So it was something I was dealing with in silence, going through day by day. And I also noticed that during the time I was struggling with this itching, my weight was decreasing more rapidly than I would have liked. When the itching started, I was around 190 pounds. And then by the time that I went to the doctor for my final appointment, I was around 173 pounds. So that's about 17 pounds lost over a handful of months, which is not easy to do when you're trying to lose weight. It's also very difficult to do when you're not trying to lose weight. I was eating as much as I could. I wanted to be a big, strong guy. So finally, the combination of having the itchy skin, the weight loss was coming down, and I had finally had enough, and I went to go see my primary doctor for an unproductive cough, the third symptom in this triad here. So I let her know, I was like, hey, I've been having the itchy skin, my weight is kind of decreasing pretty rapidly, and now I kind of have this unproductive cough. What should we do? So she was like, listen, let's play it safe, let's get a chest x-ray. I was like, okay, sounds good, you're the doctor, I'm going to follow her advice. So they scheduled the chest x-ray. I'm waiting for it about a week out. And, I go to sleep one night. Again, me and my brother are sharing a room at that point. And, I'm not a big believer in, things coming to us in dreams. Dreams are pretty interesting in the way that they work. But in my personal experience, and my mom could back this up because I told her the first thing in the morning, I had a dream that night about a week before I went in for the chest x-ray that I got diagnosed with cancer. It came out of nowhere. Again, my mom is 26 years in remission from breast cancer, so we have a strong history of beating it in the family. But I just thought that was very unusual, that very specific dream about that. And I began thinking, I was like, I wonder if that could be what's going on. So I ended up going in for the chest x-ray. I didn't really think anything of it that time. I let the dream pass as dreams come and go. But as soon as the results came in from the chest x-ray, I still remember to this day, my primary doctor said, you're going to have to call out of work later. And I was like, well, what do you mean? It was a job at a gym that I had just started at the time. And he goes, you're going to have to call your parents. And I was like, mom or dad? And he goes, which one is going to freak out more? And I was like, dad. And he's like, so you call mom. I was like, okay. Called my mom. And I just let her know that the chest x-ray had revealed many large tumors all throughout basically the midline of my body. I didn't know that they were there. They were big in like my groin region. My neck was quite swollen at the time, and I didn't realize. And they were all basically on my lymph nodes, which kind of alluded to what type of cancer I was dealing with. So my mom, she's calm and cool. She knew what to expect. She's been through this fight before. We then hustled over to Yale, New Haven, which I live relatively close by, and I stayed overnight for a battery test that they ran. And they ended up concluding that at that point I had been diagnosed with stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma. Stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma at 22. It's also known as young man's cancer, so it's not entirely uncommon. But for a young, healthy guy, at that time I was feeling pretty invincible. It was the last thing that I had ever expected. So the first thing I did was we obviously, arranged for an oncologist, to interpret the results for us to work with the family. Very, very lucky to be a patient of Dr. Joanna LaSala. When I say she doesn't have a room of awards or a hallway of awards, she has a wing of awards at her practice. She's the best of the best, and I'm eternally grateful for her until this day. So we ended up starting treatment with her. I didn't end up having to have any sort of radiation or any sort of surgery to cut out any tissue. They thought because I was young and I was relatively healthy other than the cancer that the chemotherapy would be enough. So I started my chemo. I went every other Friday for about 3.5 hours to a lovely facility in Orange. They had the best recliners on the face of the earth, which is a silver lining here. And I remember I spent my hours just getting infusions, playing Angry Birds. I think I was playing on my dad's iPad to pass the time. And I was drinking as many Ensure protein shakes as I possibly could because I wanted to regain my muscle mass and the weight that I had lost. Moving from there, as things kind of progressed, at about the five-month mark or so into the chemo, I was responding quite well. I was on prednisone at the time, which anybody who's ever been on prednisone, they may have a different experience. When I say that it's technically a steroid, it's not an anabolic steroid, but it made me insatiable. I remember waking up in the middle of the night to eat 3 or 4 sandwiches back to back with barely a breath in between. The hunger was like nothing I'd ever experienced. It was kind of nice from losing the weight. That was such an easy way to get it back. But actually, after my treatment had progressed and actually finished, and then there was no other trace on the scans for a long time, my oncologist actually used my results at a conference to show the effects of prednisone being beneficial for weight gain during cancer treatment. So I thought that was interesting how my data was able to be used to kind of show other people what can happen. And at the end of the day, I feel extremely lucky, guys. I know cancer is nothing to joke about. Just about everybody knows somebody who has been affected or who will be affected in the future. And I got extraordinarily lucky with my diagnosis because at the end of the day, 95% of people who get Hodgkin's lymphoma recover fully and live normal lives. So while at the moment it seemed like the worst news I could have gotten, in hindsight, it was actually something where I really lucked out and I really did get the beneficial side of that equation. And it really just made me think how anything can really happen at any time, but also you need to trust your gut and your own feelings when they come about. I still have no way to explain that dream that I had a week before the scan, but it was right. And I'm never going to forget that it was right. And in the future, when I have dreams like that, maybe it might not be as specific or whatever it may be, but listen to your body. It's talking to you all the time, even though you might not be able to hear what it's trying to say.
It seems to me, you hear over and over stories where people know inside what the right answer is. You had the answer and you knew it.
That's right, John.
Thank you for you having that great dream.
Yeah, you're very welcome, John, and I'm very grateful for it as well. I feel like my experience with it and my story, other people can use it, and other people can understand that just because you receive a diagnosis doesn't mean it's time to stop fighting. It's actually time to start fighting.
So we're gonna start fighting. I'd like to get back now to where this has taken you in your current career. So we're gonna end this and go back to part 2 with Clay.